Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the RyanSTO show, episode number 4. And today, I want to talk to you about the game. I don't want to talk to you specifically about builds and what we usually talk about when we do this sort of stuff, but I want to talk to you guys about how to play the game. And it's not actually specific to this game. It's more of a general thing. Like, I want to talk to you about the concept of how this works and why you want to do certain things, right? So, at the beginning, when everyone started out, we were bad with, the controls, with the mouse, with the keyboard. We didn't really know how to actually interact with the game. We more played the mechanics on, how to fight the game basically instead of playing the game. We couldn't really make the character in the game do what you personally wanted. But that is basically the key concept that you need to understand, that you need to be able to play in a way that allows you to actually execute strategies and metagame in that. If you are still struggling with the controls of the game, there's no way you can possibly achieve super high-end results, because you're not actually playing the game itself, but more the mechanics on how to play the game, right? Okay. So, the only real problem with that is there's no final answer to this whole topic. You will always see people go like, yeah, I do it this and that way, and that is sort of fine, really. There's no real way you can argue why some things should be bound this or that way. I'm just trying to tell you what works best for me and what the general concepts behind it are, so that you personally can optimize for yourself and get the best of your game for you. Okay? So that's the general concept. So I'll start out really, really basic here again. I want to talk to you about how you can hold your mouse, how you can work with your keyboard, work our way through how to interact then with STO itself, and then later on we'll have some a video about certain stuff, but we'll see that later. Alright, so what I want to start out with is basically explaining to you what you need to look into. Okay, to increase your performance in the game, you need to look at 3 things. Those are majorly piloting. That's what it's called. Piloting is the section that we want to cover today. It's how you interact, which abilities you use, and how you do all that. The setup, which is your ship, is also a very important thing, but that is basically what you only will see people focus upon. Like, they will come to you, give you their builds on STO Academy, put in all the shiny yellowish consoles, and will think this is amazing, right? It's amazing, but they don't pull the DPS numbers they would expect, and that is due to piloting. But what does piloting actually mean? And there's not a single guide out there where someone actually explains how to pilot properly. Okay. So piloting, setup, and your team. And the good thing is, those 3 things multiply each other. So when one of them is really, really excessively bad, you don't really stand a chance at getting to the top results. But you need to understand this fallacy, basically, how everyone tries to focus on setup these days, because that is easily measurable. You can compare, you can look, yeah, you have this and that console, this one might be better. But if you look at how did I use my mouse during this encounter, there's not a number at the end that said, yeah, you did a 98% accuracy on your clicking, that is awesome, you nailed it. It doesn't give you any feedback. So you just assume that it's somewhat okay, right? And everyone has his own personal playstyle developed over time. But I personally started out with RTS games, with shooters, I played World of Warcraft. I played lots and lots of games. So there is basically some experience when I came into STO, and I tried to apply the concepts that I already had in my mind to this game too, and it worked out pretty well. So let's start out with really basic how you hold your mouse, right? Let me actually bring up my camera thing so I know I'm showing you something here. Okay, so this is my mouse, right? And I hold it. Let me actually get the wire a little longer. Okay, so how do I put it on the table? And I knew people that had their pivot point basically far back here, like the edge of the table was here, and they were holding the mouse like this. Okay, you can do that, but you lose accuracy. I understand that. I usually have my pivot point around here with this bone at the side, or even on the inside. Sometimes even both when I'm trying to relax. Okay, and then I just use my fingers basically to do small movements. And if it's going a little farther, I use the wrist. And I try not to move my whole arm too much. I just use this pivot point. Okay, that is how you move around your mouse on the screen when you try to click somewhere and you go, right? You will see lots of people misleading themselves, like, let me bring up this screen. This is the game. They will say, yeah, I'm running around and my interface is screwed. They will run around and, yeah, I want to use this power that is called ambush or something. And they will go this strange route and down here and then finally click it, right? They just do this all-around clicking and all the abilities shooting. That is really not what you're looking for. You try to exactly nail the mouse position. When you want to use an ability, go to the ability and theoretically click it, while we don't actually want to click abilities, which we will get into later. So whatever you do, go with your mouse in the direct line, try to be as accurate as you possibly can, and then just click it once. Okay, if you want to target something, click it. If you want to target this guy, or this guy, and this guy over there, and if you have to headshot someone, you need to have this mouse accuracy that is just very obvious, right? So that is really important later on to get your mouse accuracy good. So you don't waste time focusing on where your mouse is going. You need to just go there and be done with it. Okay. So, second part, the keyboard. Now, don't use the arrow keys, right? The arrow keys have been implemented by a horrible guy to mislead you. The problem is you don't have many keys in the vicinity that are easily reachable, and especially not modifiable. Like, I always use WASD, while S is not bounded to move backwards. You can also use SENF. That is basically the same, just moved once to the right to open up even more abilities around that. WASD is basically fine. And then you can build modifiers with Control, Shift, and Alt. And this is really where it comes down to getting used to it. Okay. When you start out with using only your keyboard for shooting abilities, I understand how that is difficult and even frustrating, because you know you theoretically could do it if you did it in another way. But let me tell you, you really have to get this down right just once, and then you're done, right? There's no way you can match the speed of activating abilities with your mouse as you could with your keyboard. Let me move up to space here so I can show you what I mean. SEFD is fine too. That's just moved once to the right and opens up a little more keys around it. So basically when you're sitting in space, right? And I want you to understand that when you have this mouse now, you want to look with your eyes while you're in the mission, basically within this region where my mouse is pointing. You want to see what is in front of you. You want to see the enemy, okay? You don't want to look down here and have to click abilities and focus on, oh my god, this one, this one, this one, now this one, oh, I need to attack him, I need hazards, oh, and my mouse accuracy is bad and it didn't fire, oh my god, what is happening, you know? Don't panic. Calm down. there's one corresponding key on your keyboard, and just practicing it will make you find it very easily. Building reasonable groups also helps here. Like you will see my attack pattern omega being on control 1, my beta on control 2, fight will on 1 and 2. So basically I hit control 1, release control and hit 1 again. That is very easy for me to do because I don't have to move anything. I just push it and then release control and push 1 again. That is very easy to do, right? It's, for me, not taking nearly as much of the awareness of the game, basically, as if I would have to look down here and see if my mouse is actually at the right spot. Do I need to click this or do I misclick, right? Don't fall into this trap of how difficult this is because you think that you're too slow to play the game. The mouse interaction is actually difficult. It takes like all of your awareness away to make you stare at this bottom part here. And you really see people dying to this, like they stay in core breaches when they shouldn't, and they don't see that their enemies are about to die, just because when they look down here and focus on this, basically this is the radius of what they will see. They don't even see if their other emergency power cooldown is up or something. They just look down here and wait. They stare at it, and they want this 15 seconds to go away, like really bad, right? So they just sit there and stare at it, go away, but it doesn't work. Let me tell you, it doesn't work. Don't do this. Don't fall into this trap of staring down here. Okay, that's gonna help you if you look at it like every once in a while. Like you basically have a good feeling even. About how often you can use an ability, right? And if you just have a short glimpse at it and basically say, yeah, I can just shoot this, and, you know, use this one, for example, or whatever, just push the corresponding key on your keyboard. And I want to talk to you about why this is good. And because there's no real mechanic showing you why this is good on its own in STO, I made a video today. Only for you guys. So let me bring this one up. We are looking for this one. Okay, so this one was a horrible game. This is World of Warcraft. And you don't need to understand what is going on screen. That is not what it's about. I want you to think about the terms of STO here. Like, if you're using abilities, you get something that is called the Global Cooldown, okay? And let me show you what that means. I just used an ability, and you can see, and I need to move this a little so we can actually see the whole thing without the thing blocking our view. Like, you see this short cooldown on every single ability, taken down every single time you use an ability, okay? You see this. It's on this one, it's on this one. It's this circular movement, right? That is called the global cooldown. Whenever you use something, it locks out everything else. For a short duration, it's only 1.5 seconds. But it is for everything. Like when you use attack pattern or tag team or fire at will usually, all those give you the global cooldown. You cannot use more than one global cooldown ability per second, okay? So understand that there is a maximum speed at which you can play. And it is a lot easier to achieve this optimal speed with the keyboard because, you know, 1.5 seconds for a single tap on your keyboard is not a lot, really. People type 100 words per minute, which is ridiculous compared to the number we're talking about, right? So really, don't over-exaggerate how difficult this is. If you make it really easy for yourself, you will always see these global cooldowns, wow, one after another. You see this going down, right? And that is what is really hindering all sorts of all-in-one keybinds. And we won that match because the guy is dead. So, global cooldown locks out all other abilities. Don't even try using 15 abilities at the same time. That, however, also means that you will have to decide what is the best ability to use at this point in time. Okay? So there's usually a priority for this. You will say, yeah, I should use fire at will and an attack pattern one after another and then shoot. Like, this is a priority, right? You want to use it in that order to maximize the damage that you can pull and to play as efficiently as you can. And that is really why all these all-in-one keybinds broke down. And I actually did it. So I went on the internet and Googled how to make a spacebar bind. So it is called spacebar, and it binds to the space key. Execute power by tray. Ability 1 on tray 6 and 7 I'm shooting. All of the abilities basically. Okay, it is very long. And it also shoots all of your weapons, and it even distributes all of your shields. Okay, so far so good. So then I decided to put that into my engineer and bring in this mission. It's called ISA. You might have heard of it. Basically what I did is I removed everything off my tray here, as you can see. Moved it all into tray 6 and 7, and I said, I don't give a shit. I just use your all-in-one spacebar keybind now, okay? So see how this works out for me. At this point in time, even though the weapons are highlighted, they are not actually shooting, because the game decided that it's time to distribute shields first, because that is the first command that is executed. Every 3 seconds, 1 second is getting taken away from the global cooldown for distributing shields, which is why my first 3 weapons are shooting, but the rest aren't. You can see this, how this one is just highlighted as in it should shoot if it could. Okay? So we are just... I'm really mashing spacebar now, because I try to make this look as good as I can. So, let me show you how good this works out for us. And you see the cube getting pounded, right? He's really getting wailed upon. Wow, he's going down so quickly, I can't believe it. And I'm distributing shields another time, and you see my weapons not shooting. And I personally don't know what's even going on with my abilities. I just hope that the setup I made is hopefully working out. This is my engineer. It's the most horrible tomb that I could find to do this with. And I'm just distributing shields again. And let me actually speed this up, because this video is quarter of an hour long. And I'm just spamming spacebar, and I'm distributing shields all the time. Okay? So the people decided not to get over here, which is why I'm communicating a little with them. And the one guy even decides that this is too pitiful and that he should warp out, while I'm just spamming a little more spacebar. I wonder when he did warp out. So we have these spheres coming in, I'm TPRing them off, shooting all the abilities, really nothing interesting, and we die. Okay? And I don't actually know why, because, you know, I just use all my abilities whenever they become available. And this now goes on for another 10 minutes. Let's just warp to the end here, where I'm dead and dead and dead and dead and dead, and we failed. Okay. So this is horrible. Understand this. I personally cannot watch videos like that, because I just see all the lost potential in what others might call piloting, right? So this is another video with the exact same layout, just as horrible, and this is another random queue, okay? I, however, now did only bind spacebar to fire all weapons, and moved all my abilities onto my tray. And I tried to maximize the uptime of my fire at will by using the 2 and 1 key of my keyboard, and the rest of the abilities I basically use when I need them. Okay? So I can just speed this up a little too, because otherwise this will take too long. However, you will see me not using certain abilities like the engineering fleet or the Miracle Worker, for example. I don't use them randomly now, right? I want to use them when I actually need them. And the only way for me to make sure is not to auto-fire them. And even though you might argue that, yeah, I only put in what I really want to cycle anyways, like I put on my distribute shields and emergency power to shields and emergency power to weapons and fire all weapons. And I always forget to use those tag teams, right? Just think about how many seconds of global cooldown you're locking out your weapons from shooting because you threw an engineering or a tag team or emergency power to shields when you didn't actually have to, right? You will have so much more fun with the game when you can actually play the game, the strategy, make it work, and don't fight the execution of it. And the only way you can really make that happen is when you're in control of what is going on. You can only use 1.5 seconds per, you'll have 1.5 seconds per ability, and then you have cooldowns. So most of the time, just you're sitting there thinking about what should I do next, and that is really what it comes down to. You are not supposed to sit there and, yeah, this is on a 5-second cooldown, so I'll just sit here and for 5 seconds stare at it because I don't know what else to do. Look at the screen, look at why or where the spheres are, look at what you can do next. Think about the possibilities, okay? That is what piloting really is. The thinking of the next step. And even though this run is entirely horrible, right? We are not failing. I didn't even die yet. Imagine that. I didn't even die. While the run before I was dead like 10 times. And it's not really because I'm taking less heat on this one. It's more about I'm actually using abilities when I have to. You saw how I took that big hit and used my Miracle Worker there, and used the tactical team to distribute shields, and used my hazard emitters to cleanse myself of plasma fire. I didn't just throw it out and didn't have it when I really needed it, right? My weapons I'm trying to keep cycling properly, and that way you really maximize what is going on. So, as I tried to point out, as this video is also taking like 15 minutes, we're just speeding this up by quite a lot because there's nothing too special to see in this outside of how we didn't die, right? And you will even see how my damage on this one will be at 12k when this is finished. So I deal about twice the damage, and I didn't die. I mean, what else can you ask for? And I didn't do anything. I didn't do more while I was playing it. I actually had a lot more fun, because just sitting there mashing the spacebar and hoping for the best is really nothing I can do. Okay. So, make it easy for yourself. Always align stuff in a similar way, 12.2k DPS with, I think that was 10k base DPS on, so on a properly debuffed run, this would have been 20k. I personally always put evasive maneuvers to this button, numberpad 5, which is on my mouse. And that way I don't have to think about the process of doing it. Like, I don't sit there with my mouse and then go over there and click it and then, you know, think about something else. That takes me about, what, 2 seconds, 3 seconds possibly. If I just know where to look for it, just glimpse down, you know, see it, and boom, up again. And then use it. I'm done within half a second of it. I saved 3 seconds almost. Like, that is what it's feeling to me like. And that way you have so much more free time to think about what you want to do next. Like, will my attack patterns align? You have time to check on your weapon cycle. You will have to watch out for your buffs. You will see where the Borg are, what they are doing, if they will shoot a torpedo at you. So those are the major things that you really should keep in mind. I know that you can bind certain abilities together, like if you take this keybind and you want to make it a good keybind, you basically take this and say, boom, delete, go away. If you execute 2 powers and make it attack at an omega and fire at will, and another for beta and fire at will another one, then yeah, it might be easier to start out with. It might, make it more accessible to you, but really, don't try. Am I having dropped frames, guys? No, I don't. I hope the recording version of this will be fine, so just stay calm, it's gonna be alright. So, when you do that, and you know that you cannot use too many abilities per second anyways, there's really no point. Like, it doesn't take me more than 1.5 seconds to release the control key on my keyboard and press 1 again. That is done very, very quickly. Okay? So, I don't even want to recommend anyone to use something like this. I know people do this. I know this is making it for someone easier to get into it, and that is sort of fine. But really, really limit keybinds. You don't need them. There's no need. And okay, let me tell you a story. When I started out on a bicycle, I was very young at that time, right? So I was practicing with my grandpa in the backyard of where we lived. So we had this fence, and it was a parking lot almost like thing, right? So when I got a little better at it, and I was driving alone already, I didn't have someone holding my shoulder or something, right? I decided, I should go a little faster. And you know how people are at that age when they learn how to ride a bike. I went faster. But it turned out that there was a fence still in front of me, which I didn't really take into account while, focusing on all the stuff that was going on, like riding a bike. And I tried to pull over, and I crashed into this fence, and it was really horrible. I still have a horrible memory of how I crashed into that fence. But let me tell you, that does not mean that riding a bike in general is a bad thing. That doesn't mean one shouldn't do it. That just means it takes practice. Okay? And when you have practiced it, you can't even imagine how can someone be so stupid and, ride into that fence over there. That is pretty damn obvious to you, because you have built this muscle memory, and you have built the balancing in your ear, and it's basically all done subconsciously when you know how to do it. And that is the critical point. When you practice on getting there, which is something different than just playing and playing and playing while not even thinking about what you're doing, then you can improve. And once you improve, you start to see. Okay, let that just soak in a little. You actually start to see. And that is such an amazing point in time. It's basically the same for all, right? It's not STO, it's not playing golf, it's not driving a car, it's not talking. It's all of it. Once you can do it, once you have enough practice, you can't really imagine how someone couldn't know that, right? It's so easy. Like, why is he not a Native American speaker? It's such an easy language. But really understand how when you get more into it, it becomes so much more enjoyable. Because you start actually playing the game. You don't have to think about use this and that ability and everything like that. You just have the power to see what other people do. You can adjust to what is coming next. And that opens up all the space for more difficult stuff. When you look at the history of World of Warcraft raiding, right, you have the very old ones, like Blackwing Lair is probably a bad example because that was damn horrible difficult. But if you look at Molten Core, right, there are so many bosses in there. I don't actually recall anymore the number. Most of them had like 2 abilities. And that was too difficult for people. Like, they couldn't check on whether or not they were the bomb at Baron Geddon fight. That was too difficult. To do their DPS thing and check if they had a debuff. That was too difficult. And even still now, even still today, you see people running into trouble on very easy stuff, you would think, right? But that is because the players developed with the challenge. They saw, yeah, I get this debuff and I DPS. Okay, what's the big deal? So the developers introduced something new. Now you will not only have the debuff, but you will also have to watch out for another stack of something. You know, there will be ads coming, and then it will rain fire, and you have to evade this and that. Okay? So it became more and more difficult. And when people then go back to Molten Core and see Baron Geddon, they are like, whoa, how could you ever possibly find this difficult? This is a joke. This guy does nothing, he just sits there and you kill him. Come on, 1 debuff, how difficult can it be? But really, when people focus on something, on just a single thing, and single thing is DPS, right? They sit there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, oh no, I have to press 3, 3, 3, oh my god, I'm dead because the bomb blew up. Okay? So don't be that guy. Just calm down and really see what there is. And usually it's not as difficult if you just keep practicing. It's not that difficult. Problem is, people don't practice it because, you know, you don't get a real result out of this. You don't get a higher score for pressing your buttons in a better way. And yeah, I just wish basically that everyone that is watching this now steps 1 step back, looks over his own shoulder next time he plays and thinks, how can I play more easily? How can I play more efficiently? How can I make less mistakes? Because no one plays perfect. It's basically impossible. There are so many variables. If you just think about what all could go wrong on an ISA, the number is outrageously high. But just practicing it, doing it subconsciously, and do I need to kick someone from chat? Okay, anyways. Okay. So, if you guys on the chat have any questions regarding this in general, let me know. Outside of that, I hope everyone got the idea of that you should use your keyboard to do the clicking thing, like fly around, look up here, and then use your keyboard, because that is a lot easier than just clicking down here, where you have to actually look down. Okay? What is going on in the chat? Okay. So, on to point number 2. And I actually made a few notes to this. So we ran a couple of ISAs the other day. This one is the first, where everyone is running a basically pre-Delta Rising equipment set. We don't use any of the new fancy traits. We have the command specialization selected, commando and everything. And for some reason, this run wasn't lagging. That was really amazing. So, rumor has it, the pedal to the metal detection on movement the anchor trait, and all the stacks of the Azteca's supremacy trait, the 20 stacks of what's the name of the Radiant Nanite Cloud. All this stuff might just accumulate to such a high stack count that this might be an issue with the servers being capped out in some way. So really, I hope that the devs will find a way to fix this. Yeah. So do you have each key assigned to a key on your keyboard and just memorized it? Okay, so let's bring this one over again. So every single time I use an ability, I have one single key on my keyboard that corresponds to it. For example, Emergency Part 2 Weapons 3 on this one is Control 3. So when I use that, I just press the button, then I have 1.5 seconds until I have to use the next one, right? After that it could be Attack Per Omega, then it could be Fire at Will, then it could be Tag Team and Hazards. And I built this muscle memory of what I have to press corresponding to what I need. I don't actually think about, yeah, I need to use Tactical Team. Where's Tactical Team? Oh, that should be on T. I don't think that. I just think Tag Team and push it. You know? That's really, really quick for me. And that is also something that I would encourage everyone to do. Just make the layout, the general concept of it, the same on all of your ships and tunes and everything. So you have to only memorize this once, and then adjust if something is different. Like on all my tunes, on the Romulan, on the Engineer, on the Second Federation Tactical that I got, the Tag Team is always on T. That way I don't have to think about it. I have been using keybinds for almost 2 years, and I fully understand where Ryan is coming from on this. Hopefully. Because I really want to stress this point, and I know that it's possibly a little too much, but really understand how there is no point to keybinds outside of making it easier to get into, but then it's somewhat hurting you because you think that you're already doing it right. Right? And if you just use spacebar more quickly, then you will play faster and you will play better. That is just plain wrong, understand that. That is what I tried to show with my video of the IS-8 that failed and the IS-8 where I used my abilities on hand, basically, where I handpicked every single ability and only chose the proper time, and I didn't die anymore, right? Sure, I mean, that was a better team by a little, but my performance was twice as good too. I changed my keybind file like 3 days ago. No more firing cycle interruption while pressing spacebar. Okay. I hope you don't have too crazy a keybind though. Theoretically, what you just have to prevent from happening is that when your weapons are doing their refresh, we can actually bring up the video because I know that the other one didn't show it that well. Whenever your weapons are about to refresh, and let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so which one do we pick? Starting out, come on. Okay, so here we fly in, right? Now our weapons are not shooting. Everyone is, I guess we can agree that our weapons are currently not shooting. I have just used my attack Per Omega. I have just used my Fire at Will, even though it did not yet trigger. You don't see it on the bar. Now it's active. And now I press the spacebar. And you see how these ones are shooting 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds. This one is highlighted to shoot off next, and this one is about to shoot off next too, like this. Now every single of the weapons is actually shooting. You have the indicator of this vertical bar slowly scrolling down, right? And you see the corresponding beam arrays shooting at the enemy. Now, when you wait a little longer, this one is about when it's about to finish. You will see how they go on cooldown, which is indicated by this circular movement here. You see this one is, you know, 2/3 of the cooldown is left. This one is only 1/4 almost. This one is half, and that like. Okay. So when this is finished, they start highlighting again, and then they will start shooting again like this. Okay. So this one now shoots again for a second time, and this is the crucial part. You have to allow that to happen. When all your weapons shoot like this, you can use now whatever you want. Your global cooldown is done. Okay? You just wait and use your stuff. I use my transfer shield strength and my engineering team and whatever I need. And then I realize, yeah, there's only 1 second left. I probably should stop sort of soon, right? So the cooldown is like 1.5 seconds, which is about as which is enough for 1 more ability. So I queue up this engineering team and then start shooting again. And that is really what you're looking for. Don't interrupt your cycle. Use your stuff in between. And I have something targeted in front of me, which is making my rear weaponry not shooting. But theoretically, now I use my tag team, then I wait. Right? I use my fire all to make sure that those other 2 also shoot, because the auto-firing is not working 100% correctly all the time due to server lags and all that. But when that happens, just use your fire all weapons spacebar and don't trigger another ability, okay? Just make sure that your weapons are really shooting like this, and then you have like a second or 2 if you lose your cycle. That shouldn't really happen, but you sometimes run into trouble. But you really want to make sure that you always shoot with all of your weapons. And once that is accomplished, you glimpse down what is the cooldown on Fire at Will, what is the cooldown on Omega. Always think about what is the next ability that will be most beneficial. And if you think in those terms, right, what is the ability that is most beneficial next? That is not only damage, but also survivability, because when you're dead, you usually stop dealing damage, and you just want to maximize your total performance value, basically. So think about what will help you the most. Usually that is dealing damage, and then using your defensive stuff in between the cycles, because, you know, getting it going is really not that difficult. There are only a few things to look out for. And for that, I wanted to talk to you guys about the 171K video. That was this one. Let me actually see this. So I use both my tactical fleets, right? Because we talked about it beforehand, so everyone knew when to use his fleets. So when I fly in here, I give the ship this short full impulse burst to get to the side of it. Then I use my emergency powder weapons to get my weapons power up again, and then I use my fire at will. As you see, I didn't use anything else, because I don't want to waste my attack pattern alpha. I want to make sure that whenever I do use my alpha, I actually have enough enemies in range. So I only used emergency powder weapons, fire at will, and my fleets, obviously, because, you know, we decided to do it that way. So then I sit here. Now I use my tactical initiative to reduce the next Omega's cooldown. I use the fleet support. I don't even have it right now. I use the GDF, and then I start shooting this thing over here. I still hold back, right? I don't use attack pattern alpha. I don't use Omega. This is really what you should think about. At what point do you want to use them? Because right now I know that I will shoot the Nano Transformer for quite a while. I have the generators that I want to kill quickly, and I have those spheres that will take quite a chunk of damage, right? So I use my major cooldowns now and then start shooting at them. And there's no doubt that you will deal more damage when you use fire at will more often. Right? And I personally want you to understand that every single time you use an ability that is beneficial, it is probably beneficial to use it as often as you can. And I see these videos of STO players are showing an ISA in 15 minutes and saying on the gate, yeah, it's time to do, and then they name a super fancy console, right? If it is fancy or good to do this at minute 8, why wasn't it good at minute 1? What is the general idea of it? What is the idea of it when you do stuff like that? And if you have a good answer for that, like, oh, I one-shot the tactical cube with it and I can only use it once, so why should I waste it on a sphere, right? That is a fair answer. You maximize your total performance by doing so. But if that is not the case, as with Fire at Will, for example, which will just always increase your damage, then there is really no point not to use Fire at Will as often as you can possibly can. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does, because to me that is the basic concept of how DPS works. And when I did pretty crazy raiding back in the day, the boss encounters were actually meant for you to pull optimal DPS as much as you can, because otherwise you just die due to the enrage timer. In this game there is basically no enrage timer, but the concept to kill something as quickly as you can basically means that you will have to use the most beneficial abilities as often as you can and basically optimize there. If you're doing that, you're in good shape. And thanks to a lot of testing, because the game doesn't actually tell you, I think we pretty much know why and how most of the stuff currently works. And that is a concept that is somewhat misunderstood. Like, people will talk about their playstyle, and they will talk about torpedoes, and they will talk about using this and that console, and it is all fine, right? The game is supposed to be there for fun. You can do whatever you want, and running a cannon boat and a torpedo boat is fun. But if you're trying to maximize DPS, do what actually works. Okay? And there's a proven point to this. Torpedoes don't deal the best damage that you possibly can. So if you're trying to improve, drop your torpedoes. And it's not that we don't like torpedoes. Every guy I know is a fan of Star Trek that is playing this game. Every one of us is thinking, yeah, I hope the Galaxy would be an awesome ship to fly, because everyone likes it, right? It's the Enterprise. Why wouldn't you fly it? But in this game, they decided to make the Enterprise a crippled ship. And therefore, if you're trying to optimize, you're not going that direction. It's a fun ship to fly. I got myself a fleet one, but understand that we are trying to optimize here. It's not personal preference, but it is what they made you do. Is fire weapons bound to spacebar 2? I have my buffs on spacebar, but not the shields redistribution. If you have redistribute shields on your spacebar, that is the worst horrible keybind that you can possibly do. Every 3 seconds you take 1 second away to distribute shields. That is horrible. Okay. So, Galaxy class is a tier 3. There's also a Fleet Galaxy that is tier 5U, but it's still horrible, believe me. So theoretically, right, when you're looking at this, you want to have your mouse free to do the camera thing. You want to know what is going on. You want to look up here. You want to turn around. You want to be able to target whatever you need. You want to click your enemy when you need it. Having is sort of fine when you know it's in front of you, but really clicking is usually faster. You want to then have a short look on your cooldowns. Know basically at what time you have to look down back again. And then there is one third component in this game that is really important, that are your buffs. The ones that are currently running, for example, at Emergency Powder Weapons gives you this nice icon there, or Attack Plan Alpha. Those ones are somewhat important because you know you have to optimize what you do with them. But they introduced the all hands on deck, for example, which really makes me look down at this one all the freaking time. It's only counting down 5 seconds whenever you use a tactical bridge officer ability, and it reduces your alpha's cooldown every single time you can use it there, basically. So whenever this one expires, I use a tactical ability to reduce my alpha. See how my alpha is still on 3 seconds, and I am already down to a 40-second cooldown, right? So basically, look out for this, look out for the enemy, and then use your stuff correctly, and you will have so much more fun in this game. The layout of your ship also has quite an impact on the game, but it's really not that important. I mean, getting your stuff up to 14 basically enables you to do whatever you like. If you have Fleet Equipment Mark 12, you are still in very good shape to pull around 50 to 60k without too much effort on most builds. I know that Holo did like 85 the other day. That is a little crazy, but yeah, don't focus on the layout only, because the flying is actually where the enjoyment is. Because you have the control of your ship, right? You want to be the captain. You don't want to be the ship's builder, I hope. Okay, so I believe you, Ryan. The problem of binding buffs and weapons fire is that it will mess your firing cycle. It is imperative that you separate fire, weapons, and buffs. That is true. I have X to fire weapons and spacebar for buffs. My weapons never mess up firing cycles this way. That is okay to do. But understand that you want to use your buffs in an optimal way. And when you are trying to maximize for stuff like the 180k runs or something, then you actually predetermine when to use your stuff. You don't go in and think, yeah, this time I'm gonna use it, this and that. I actually made a list and want when to use what button. Okay, what if you use Hilbert Guide without the firing part, just buffs, and manually click on fire all weapons? Would it be optimal? No, it would not be optimal. For every given reason. Hilbert has distribute shields. That is the worst thing that you can possibly do. The problem with spacebar is that it makes you repeatedly press fire all weapons. And that's what is bad. Not necessarily. The game doesn't shoot your weapons when you're blocking. Okay, listen to me very closely and carefully. Okay, you're paying attention. It's called Global Cooldown. It locks out everything that you do. So when you use distribute shields and have fire at will, attack pattern omega, emergency power to weapons tactical team, torpedo, high yield, scatter volley, hazard emitters, transfer shield strength, and all the other stuff in there, believe me, it will not use the ability that you want at that moment. You will just lose damage there. And you will lose survivability, and you will lose performance. That is just the cold hard truth of it. Don't even try. I just wish people wouldn't have the power to do this, because this is just this. Yeah, if you go just this way, it is so easy. But at the same time, it is killing you. And so many people fall for it, or fell for it, and even fall for it today, that it's really hard to work your way through all this muddled stuff, right? Because there are so many guides that are wrong. There are so many videos, and basically everything you see on YouTube about this game is strange at best. So believe me. Well, why would you believe me? Well, I'm the guy that deals the most damage. So I hope you see the point of that. If you're really trying to optimize, there's no way you can bind all of your buffs into one single key and still hope that you will be alright. Okay, I hope that should make the point clear to everyone. Don't use all-in-one, and really only if you know what you're doing and think you need it to get into the game or something, you may use one or two abilities on the same key, but really there's no need for it due to the 1.5 seconds lockout. Yes, you should ignore Hilbert guide. Absolutely. 100%. 100% you should ignore it. And I talked to Hilbert the other day, and he showed me the graphic of how much DPS he did with distribute shields and fire all weapons, and how much he did without the keybind. And both were at 2k DPS. And I understand that he doesn't see the real difference there, because two abilities don't really start blocking out each other. But if you just add on to this list, it is horrible. It is so horrible. And there's no reason to do it, because you are limited on your maximum speed anyways. So rather think about what you want to do next, and then execute the right ability. That is what you should do. Yes, he showed me a screenshot of 2k DPS. That was apparently in PvP to show that it doesn't interact with the firing cycles, but that is just leaving out the whole idea of global cooldown, because two abilities don't actually lock each other out. So yeah, okay. In case you have joined in on this late, I'm pretty much done with my rant on how to shoot abilities, how to look at the screen, and how to look at your buffs. If you guys have any questions, mail me in-game. I'll probably do another live stream on either Wednesday or Thursday with more detail on builds. I have quite a few questions about the Thorian Recluse carrier. Actually, we could possibly also do one on Sunday. I don't actually know yet. I'll have to see. I'll announce it on Twitter. So, yeah. Outside of that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm there for you if you have any questions. Don't forget to share this to everyone you know that is running an all-in-one keybind, because it is time to step up their game too, and to have more fun with the game. And I don't know how this comes off, but I'm actually trying to help you with this. I know this will be difficult on the beginning. When you start out, it feels strange, and you have to get used to it, but you will hopefully have just so much more enjoyment with the game when you can actually play the game and don't fight the controls all the time. So I wish you guys a beautiful evening, and then I'll see you guys in-game. If you have any comments, questions, or whatever, mail them, send them, shoot them, whatever you like. Good night.